What's up, guys? My name is Eric Hopkins, and welcome to the Jailcast. I am here to do my weekly recap show for the WWE shows that happened this week. And as promised, I apologize for not doing the Roadblock pay-per-view recap show on Sunday, but I'm going to go over that real quick here due to a minor computer issue. I was unable to do it that night. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be going over that show as well as Raw, SmackDown, and NXT like I do every week. So without further ado, let's get started. WWE Roadblock this week was kind of a there wasn't a whole lot on the show, to be honest with you. It was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about. It's a typical pay-per-view in December, but there were a few big things to go over. First of all, the New Day lose their WWE Tag Team Championships after 483 days to Sheamus and Cesaro. The Indian was really well done to where they actually teased a tag in the corner, and instead of actually making the tag, they teased it, and then he ended up rolling up Kofi Kingston for the win. But yeah, I thought it was really well executed. It was a different kind of finish for a tag team championship match, and it kind of made the New Day losing the belt. They didn't seem like total geeks or anything like that. It kind of gave them like they were outsmarted, they were tricked to some degree, and it was a long, good run, and they will always go down for now anyway as the longest reigning tag team champions of all time. So the New Day can at least hang their hats on that one. We had Sami Zayn against Braun Strowman in a 10-minute time limit match, which, Sami Zayn did last the 10 minutes, but he didn't actually win anything. So I don't see exactly what the whole point of this was other than to kind of give Sami a win, so to speak, over Braun Strowman, which only, made Braun Strowman irate, as we see on Raw here in a little while. But so it, Sammy didn't seem like he was too thrilled about the win anyway, because it was just kind of like, I didn't really do much after the show was over when he was on Raw Talk. So we'll see where they go with this. I mean, Mick Foley come out with a towel he was going to throw in there, and Sami Zayn threw that into the crowd, and it just seemed kind of like, it was just sort of there. There really wasn't a whole lot to it, to be honest. As expected, in the Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho match, Seth Rollins went over Chris Jericho here. Again, they're just like I said on my last week's show that this is basically Chris Jericho was basically a roadblock for Seth Rollins on his way to Triple H. So I mean, he just kind of served here, that role, so to speak. And Seth Rollins will be moving on to bigger and better things in the future, and I think. Chris Jericho will probably be moving on to Kevin Owens. I don't know for sure, but for now that's not the case. And Seth Rollins will probably be either looking for the Universal Championship or maybe even entering the Royal Rumble match itself. Most of the results on Roadblock were pretty well predicted by me, including the triple threat cruiserweight championship match between Rich Swann, Brian Kendrick, and T.J. Perkins. Rich Swann retained here. The match wasn't anything spectacular at all. At the end of the cruiserweight championship match, the triple threat match, Neville made his return, and it looks like he's going to be going for the cruiserweight championship and getting involved in the division as well, which brings an added spark to the cruiserweight division that was not there that like was at the cruiserweight classic this summer. So Neville is right around this right size frame, and I think they've been teasing that Austin Aries is going to be joining this division too once his injury is all better in January or early in the year, because he's been doing commentary for 205 Live. So those two guys entering the division will actually bring a big spark to it because they're both great in-ring competitors. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going with that. They got Neville playing a heel right now as he laid out T.J. Perkins and Rich Swann after the match, and yeah, so I like that little dynamic, and I hope they bring in some other small guys that are being underused as well, and they could really boost this division, and hopefully, we'll make it more fun to watch because so far 205 Live has been an absolute bore. The best match on the card had to be Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Flair for the women's title in a 30-minute Iron Man match. The match started off kind of slow, but the very ending was really well done with they ended up having like two falls apiece, and there was a good little sequence at the very end, especially where Sasha Banks' knee was hurt, and Charlotte Flair was using that to her advantage, and got her to tap twice in this match actually, and I just thought it was really good ending to an overall pretty well done match between the two. These two always put on a good show. I just kind of after seeing it over and over and over again, it gets a little tiring, but and again to see the title change hands to Charlotte, which it was cool to have her pay-per-view record intact for the year, but at the same time, do you need to keep changing the belt like this? I hope that Charlotte will hold on to it for a while, and it looks like she's going to be going into a program with Bayley in the future. Sasha Banks looks like she's going to be going into a feud with Nia Jax, as we'll see on Raw. In the main event of Roadblock, we had Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens retained his championship once again. Owens did a splash off the barricade onto Roman Reigns through one of the announce tables, which did not break the first time, so he had to do it twice. And it broke the second time, and it was a typical Owens versus Reigns match. It was kind of a Raw main event. The finish saw Chris Jericho coming into the ring, teasing that him and Kevin Owens weren't getting along anymore. And then Chris Jericho stopped, kind of looked at Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, and then Chris Jericho, then gave the code breaker to Roman Reigns, and this gave Kevin Owens the DQ win. And after it was over, the Jericho smiled and then hugged Kevin Owens, so they were on the same page, or at least Jericho did what was right for Kevin Owens. It didn't look like Kevin Owens knew what was going on at all, but it was an interesting finish. But again, Seth Rollins coming out and Roman Reigns and Rollins destroying the two. Monday Night Raw this week. The big news coming out of the show: the Universal Championship will be defended at the Royal Rumble with the champion Kevin Owens going up against Roman Reigns yet again. This time, Mick Foley ordered that Chris Jericho will be suspended in a shark cage above the ring, which will totally take Chris Jericho out of the match and will keep him from interfering, one would think. Now, they did this angle on NXT a few weeks back with the Authors of Pain, and Paul Ellering was suspended from the high above the ring for the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Classic there, and Paul Ellering got involved a little bit by throwing a weapon down from the cage. So Chris Jericho might do that. I don't know, but for the most part, this makes total sense storyline wise to kind of keep Jericho out of the ring to kind of hopefully give Roman Reigns a fair chance. I really hope they don't put the title on Roman Reigns here at the Royal Rumble, but Vince McMahon does like to put the titles on his guys that he feels are going to carry the company and going into WrestleMania. So it would not stun me. I could almost see maybe a Chris Jericho Kevin Owens feud coming out of this if Owens does lose the title, and that could be another Mania match, which actually could be very entertaining depending on how they do it. Monday Night Raw also had a few new programs coming to light. Nia Jax attacked a hobbling Sasha Banks after her match with Charlotte Flair. One night after that match, so, I mean, Nia Jax obviously is looking to kind of move up the ranks here, and Sasha Banks needs a new feud after Charlotte Flair beat her again to gain her fourth championship. And it was great. I thought Big E Langston had a good line earlier in the night where he said that talking about how they were the longest reigning champions, and in order to get the champions more, they'd have to lose it. And he kind of made a line to where Charlotte Flair will be up to her father's record of 16-time champ by the end of the month. So that was a great line. I laughed out loud pretty loud for that one. Speaking of Charlotte Flair, Bayley defeated her for the third time in as many months here. They're teasing a possible title match between the two. I hope they don't do it soon. That would be a match I would like to see at Mania, or I can maybe even see them doing a multiple women match at WrestleMania with like maybe the four horsewomen with Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, and Bayley. That would be my ideal. But obviously, if recent history is any indication, we're going to have Bayley and Charlotte against each other multiple times, and so far Bayley's has got the edge on this for the most part. So I just don't like the whole idea of pinning a champion to earn a title match. That should be something that they shouldn't even have wrestling matches until the title match, because it kind of kills the importance of the championship that way. In this show, as mentioned earlier, Braun Strowman was absolutely livid after semi losing to Sami Zayn the night before. So the main story of this night was Braun Strowman was just taking out people left and right, and even during the main event, he went after Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and he left them both lying. He absolutely killed Roman Reigns on the outside with a face first choke slam to the mat. It looked very brutal, and that's one way to get Roman Reigns over, is just absolutely just injure him. But they're obviously they're Vince especially is very high on Braun Strowman, and so he's going to push him to the moon. And I'm sure he'll be in the Royal Rumble and probably eliminate a lot of guys, but I would expect, like, say, a Brock Lesnar or a Goldberg, more than likely Goldberg, to destroy him. But I could see Braun Strowman also actually in the Royal Rumble, like, absolutely destroying James Ellsworth. I could see that happening too. So the Royal Rumble is one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Just a few little tidbits from Monday Night Raw here. I'll say Mick Foley has some interesting attire. He has some interesting clothes all the time. He's always wearing like flannel or something like that. Tonight he was wearing like a leather jacket and this like weird looking T-shirt. Looked like he had like a hairy chest cut up like through like his V-neck here. It was very interesting. I'll say, to say the least. then the night before he was wearing sweatpants with a leather jacket, so it was kind of interesting to see, and you can always count on Mick Foley to look interesting. Monday Night Raw also saw Enzo go through sensitivity training because of him exposing himself to Lana a few weeks ago. This segment absolutely died a death to me. This is it brought back memories of Daniel Bryan and Kane and anger management, things like that. That even though in that segment Daniel Bryan is so entertaining that it worked a little more, but Enzo, he's in the same room with Jinder Mahal and Bo Dallas and Bob Backlund and Darren Young, and all these guys are a bunch of geeks no one cares about. So it kind of died. I couldn't hardly handle Enzo in this segment, even though he was trying to hit on the sensitivity trainer at the end of it. So I thought that was kind of funny. But afterwards, of course, he got destroyed by Jinder Mahal and Rusev. So I don't know if they're going to set up a tag team feud with Enzo and Cass against Rusev and Mahal. I could maybe see that happening. Because they've already done the singles feud with Rusev and Cass to some degree here, so I can see them probably going that route. Once again, we had no Emelina this week. They've been teasing that she's going to show up at some point, and now they're kind of playing it off like it's been up to her where she's kind of been holding off her debut. I don't know what the reasoning is, but they really need to start delivering on this before too long before people get sick and tired of just seeing the vignettes all the time. As I mentioned, the main event had Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins won via DQ after Braun Strowman come in and absolutely destroyed both of them. I thought it was pretty funny here. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho were laying the boots to Seth Rollins in the middle of the ring, and when Braun Strowman got in there, they both just hightailed it out of there. They were the smart ones here, so they lived to fight another day. And Braun Strowman, the show ended with him just destroying the set, and earlier in the night he took out Sin Cara on the Christmas stage and all that stuff. So happy holidays from the new WWE here. They love to destroy their holiday sets and things like that to kind of celebrate the forthcoming holiday season. That's for sure. WWE SmackDown this week was actually a pretty good show. I thought Raw and Roadblock were just kind of there, but SmackDown this week actually had some pretty fun stuff on it. I thought AJ Styles finally defending the WWE World Championship against James Ellsworth at the very beginning of the show. It was great because he literally beat James Ellsworth in like 10 seconds. I mean, he absolutely destroyed him and then destroyed him afterwards, which, just throwing him all over the, outside of the ring and then like choking him on the bottom of the ring there. It was really well done, and I'm getting tired of James Ellsworth, and I kind of wonder if they kind of see that the rest of the crowd is too, and they've kind of maybe he's ran his course. And AJ Styles, is far better than any geek, and I'm glad to see he finally destroyed the little goober running around there and been causing him all this trouble. The show also had a moment where they finally revealed that Natalya is the one who attacked Nikki Bella at Survivor Series, thus taking her spot in the Survivor Series tag team match. I'm glad that they decided to not drag this out any longer. They've dragged it out long enough. Natalya was obviously the probably most logical choice because she benefited the most from it by taking the spot in the tag team match at the Survivor Series. So Natalya actually had some lines here where she was calling, pardon my French, Nikki Bella a bitch multiple times, and then she was talking about how John Cena will never marry her. This brought back a lot of Attitude Era feelings for me a little bit. It was a little more edgy and it felt real, and that's one thing I hope WWE will start to do more often. I know that for their after shows like on SmackDown or Talking Smack, I should say, or Raw Talk, they've been kind of letting the superstars kind of go off the cuff a little bit and not read the script word for word, so to speak, and just kind of be themselves. And it's been very entertaining. I hope that that will eventually translate to the main shows. Time will tell on that, but they've got these little glimpses here with this. And plus, earlier in the night, The Miz was being interviewed by Renee Young in the ring, and The Miz happened to go off. And for the first time on WWE television, I believe they acknowledged that Dean Ambrose is dating Renee Young, and Miz said something to the effect of Renee Young, knows Dean Ambrose best because she's sleeping with him, and that, whether it's scripted or not, brought a giant slap from Renee to Miz's face, and I thought it was really well done. Then she stormed off livid, tearing her microphone off of her dress and things like that because I mean, it just brought a sense of realism to it that WWE's been lacking lately, and I hope they continue to do that. And Miz is obviously great at pushing the right buttons. So the Miz and Dean Ambrose could be a good feud if they bring that personal aspect to it. We'll see if they continue that, or if it was just kind of a one-time, mention of their of Renee and Dean's relationship. They also set up a big SmackDown next week. Um, Next week, AJ Styles will now defend his WWE Championship in a triple threat match against Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin after Corbin and Ziggler fought each other to a double countout where Ziggler put his title match on the line against Corbin after Corbin come out and insulted him earlier. Um, Obviously, you all know that my feelings on Ziggler are very clear. I'm not a big fan of him. They've just killed him and killed him and killed him, so I just don't care about him now. Corbin, uh, they've kind of not done a whole lot with him since he's come up from NXT. He's just kind of been destroying little guys here and there at times and things like that. So I like the fact that they were going to put him in this triple threat because it kind of gives me a little more reason to watch other than just watching, AJ Styles and Ziggler go at each other because, obviously I want to feel like, AJ is going to win that match anyway, and AJ should win this triple threat as well. But it was a nice little wrinkle to throw in there, and it gives me a little more intrigue to watch SmackDown next week. Also, they announced that next week Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton will defend the tag titles in a four corners elimination match, as well as Alexa Bliss will be defending the women's title against Becky Lynch. And actually, Alexa Bliss fought Becky Lynch in this show, but Becky Lynch was dressed up as La Luchadora, which was they said was Mil Mascaros's like long lost daughter or something, I believe. And so she was just wearing this like this full body tights and a full mask, so you couldn't tell it was her. But then Becky Lynch made her tap out to the disarmor and setting up that match for next week. I'm not sure exactly why they are building up this SmackDown for next week. It is the Tuesday after Christmas, so naturally the week I'll be out of town, I won't be able to go over this show the week of. I'll probably go over all my WWE shows like the following week after in the beginning of January to do a little catch up. But yeah, for some reason they want to really sell this SmackDown show. A lot of times they kind of hold off some of their bigger shows until the beginning of January. So it's kind of interesting that they got all these title matches for what they're calling Wild Card Finals on SmackDown Live next week. I don't know, and they're also bringing back John Cena. So I don't know if it's just kind of like a Christmas gift that kind of want to give the crowd or and the fans in general, or what they're planning here. But they may be starting their run to Royal Rumble just a little bit early, just to kind of get the crowd into it before the beginning of the year. NXT this week, there wasn't a whole lot on early on in the show that was much of note. The final half of the show was the Fatal 4-Way number one contenders match for Shinsuke Nakamura's championship. It was the Fatal 4-Way between Ty Dillinger, Andrade Cien Almas, Roderick Strong, and the glorious one Bobby Roode. The match was pretty good for the most part. Of the ending obviously saw a lot of back and forth, kicking out of finishers and stuff from Ty Dillinger and Bobby Roode. And as I called, and most predictably, and sometimes predictable is not a bad thing in professional wrestling, Bobby Roode is now the number one contender by pinning Ty Dillinger for Shinsuke Nakamura's NXT Championship. And that match between Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura will take place the night before the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. And I think that match has got great potential to be a show stealer. Bobby Roode is, even though he's new here in NXT, he is a ring veteran. He's been around for a lot of years in TNA and some other places as well. So that could be a very fun match in general. All in all, this week's shows, Raw was probably the weakest show of the week. Mainly, again, a lot of the time it's because it's too long. They fill it with a lot of filler and garbage that really, crappy comedy that does not need to be in the WWE shows. Roadblock was okay. SmackDown was the best show of the week. It had a lot of newsworthy things on there and a little bit more of an old school feel, I thought. And then NXT was good to build to the January Takeover show. But for the most part, it was a decent week. Sunday and Monday was not the greatest, but the Tuesday and Wednesday shows absolutely made it up for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. And just a reminder to everybody, I will be going on a holiday break. Next week I'll be out of town visiting family, so I will not be doing my weekly WWE recap show next week, but I will be back at the beginning of January, and I will go over the last 2 weeks worth of action at that time. That way I get you all caught up what's going on in the world of WWE. So thanks for watching. Well, that'll just about do it for me, everybody. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like what you saw here, please comment and like this video. And you can also subscribe to the Jailcast on YouTube by searching for Jailcast there. You can also find links in the description of this video for my Facebook and Twitter, or you can go to facebook.com/Jailcast, or you can find me on Twitter @EricJail. So, until next time, thank you for watching. God bless.